Próspera is a special economic zone in Honduras that experiments with lower taxes, private governance, and alternative legal institutions. And if you do a search for Próspera, you'll see a lot of people criticizing the project. But what stands out is how no one has an argument. Mostly it's just insinuations that evil people are getting together to do evil things, but without anyone willing to actually make any accusations. It's literally just vibes. They say it's backed by billionaires, as if that tells me anything morally relevant. Okay, rich people invested in something. That's not an argument. Maybe in some circles, the mere presence of a billionaire is enough to make something taboo, but why should I care? Then they complain it's Americans starting special economic zones, and some of them even explicitly compare it to colonialism. But again, what is the actual accusation? Colonialism means conquest, dispossession, and dominance. Voluntary investment, private contracts, and a special legal jurisdiction are not colonialism just because the investors are foreign or rich. Then they complain that projects in Próspera are private and closed off. They don't even bother to state the assumption, which is that the public is somehow entitled to know everything. But why should the government be entitled to inspect everything? You're not entitled to know what happens on other people's property just because you're curious or suspicious. Transparency is demanded of governments because governments rule over people who did not consent. Private actors owe you non-aggression and restitution if they violate your rights. They do not owe you access to their property. Then there's the research angle. People point to medical research happening in Próspera and imply that it is suspicious because it's happening outside the American regulatory system. But why is that automatically bad? Sometimes innovation happens because people work outside slow, politicized approval systems. If the research works, even partially, it could lead to useful scientific data and even useful treatments. Working outside the FDA's approval process does not make research evil. Then politicians complain that allowing cities like Próspera to exist means selling off sovereignty. But from an anarcho-capitalist perspective, that might be the best part. Sovereignty is just the state's claim that it gets final authority over a territory and everyone inside it. So when the government gives up even a little bit of that control and then tries to claw it back without any clear harm to point to, it's obvious what the real issue is. They aren't mad because of the greater good. They're mad because a piece of society started slipping outside their control. The only objections that even come close to mattering are the concerns of local property owners. If someone can show that land was stolen, or someone was defrauded, or someone was otherwise aggressed against, then that would be a real objection. But complaints that someone built a taller building than local politicians would have allowed are not pointing to a rights violation. You do not own the skyline. You own your property. That is the problem with every objection to Próspera. They talk about sneaky American billionaires avoiding regulation, but they keep dodging the only question that would actually justify shutting it down. Whose rights were violated? If someone's property was taken, if someone was defrauded, or if someone was forced into this arrangement, then say that. But if the complaint is just that people are building outside the national government system, then the outrage is not about rights, it is about control. And that is exactly why the political class hates it. Próspera proves that the state can be compared to something else. Liberals, progressives, and socialists know their plans cannot tolerate people having options, because once people are free to choose their own plans, the government's plan stops looking like society's will and gets exposed as control.